Welcome to the Back to Me podcast, where we help multicultural incoming freshman women and men manage their entire college experience throughout post-graduation to successfully transition into entrepreneurship and corporate workspaces as new hires.
Back to me. Oh, I turned it around. I'm back to me. I finally figured it out. I'm back to me. So when you think you have nothing, back to me. I go back to me. Yeah, I'm back to me.
Hello, everyone. It's your host, Yoli Tamu. Immigration continues to be a major concern for so many around the world. What if you were given the opportunity to study abroad and show your support for disadvantaged communities through your advocacy efforts? In this week's episode of our 4th annual Divine 9 series, we are joined by Nila Roper, Beta Iota chapter initiate of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. Writing and thinking critically came naturally for Nila, and with the encouragement of her mother, she decided to major in English and minor in Comparative Women's Studies at Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia. As a student currently studying abroad in a migration and social change program, find out why she decided to travel to Cuernavaca, Mexico, and why she believes it is important that we continue to vote in future elections. Enjoy. We are continuing our incredible Divine 9 series. We're in the second half of our incredibly Divine 9 initiates, and we have another powerful one, an amazing one. So glad to meet her, Miss Nila Roper. How you doing?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. My goodness, just the incredible timing of us coming together and talking about this election a little bit at some point. How are you feeling? You good?
Feeling good. I'm hanging in there.
That's good. Look, we are hanging in there. That's all good. Well, I'm looking forward to this conversation. You're a Beta Iota chapter initiate of Zeta Phi Beta Sorority Incorporated. I love it. I love it. I love it. So now I always love to start with motivation. So, you have an incredible major. It's always good to run into English majors. Tell us what motivated you to pursue English as a major.
For sure. So English has always been my favorite subject in school. I've always loved to read and to write, and writing in particular has always come very, very naturally to me. So when I started looking at schools, I kind of knew that would be my default major. I definitely wasn't putting any pressure on myself. And I said, once I get to college, I'll figure it out. Maybe I'll change my mind. But that's kind of what I applied to schools with. And I got to school and I really, really loved it. I think that the Spelman English department in particular is really, really special. And I just really loved getting to read and learn about authors in a way that really puts the Black female perspective as priority. And it just teaches you really how to read and how to just think analytically and think critically. And I think that it's a major that you can apply to a whole lot of fields. So yeah.
Okay. And what's your current status? You're a junior, yes?
Yes, third-year student.
Okay, fantastic. So now you mentioned to me about the Blueprint. That's the newspaper at Spelman?
Yes.
Tell us about the Blueprint.
Of course. So I've been writing for the Blueprint since my freshman year. Journalism has been an interest of mine since I want to say maybe my freshman or sophomore year of high school. Again, I knew that I loved to write, and I was kind of debating career paths for the longest time. When I was younger, I wanted to go into the arts. I loved to dance. And I kind of thought that would be my path since I was a very little girl. And then I got to high school and I was like, oh, I don't know. I still love this, but I don't know if I'm feeling doing it full time. So I remember talking to my mom one day and she was like, you love to write and you love to, learn about the world. Why not journalism? So I remember first I went to a museum over the summer. I went to the museum in Washington, D.C., and it's just dedicated to news and the impact of journalists. And I was so inspired by that. And that same summer, I did a program through the New York Times, and I got to do a journalism program in Oxford, England. And I was just really, really inspired by the role that journalists have in informing the public, in inspiring people to act and do more. And I just really, really fell in love with it. And now I'm at the Blueprint, which is Spelman's newspaper. It was reactivated in the last few years. Prior to that, most Spelman students just wrote for the Maroon Tiger, which is Morehouse's newspaper, which is very well known. but a group of students decided to reactivate it. And I've just really loved meeting people and just having the freedom to really explore the issues that I care about. And it's been a really great experience.
My goodness, you've been studying abroad. So you mentioned being at Oxford, and now you are in Mexico. So this is kind of cool that we're speaking, and you are abroad now in a study abroad program. So what, convinced you to go to Mexico? What part of Mexico? Where are you?
Yes, so I'm in Cuernavaca, Mexico, which is much less, it's very, not very well known. It's a very rural, small town in the mountains, but it's not hard to find necessarily. It's about 2 hours from Mexico City. And I've had an interest in studying abroad since last school year, since sophomore year. And my mom had always encouraged me to go abroad. She thought it would be a great learning experience for me. So I started going to the Spelman study abroad information sessions and doing my research. And I knew that I wanted to be in Latin America because I've been learning Spanish not super consistently, not as much during college, but before that, I had been learning Spanish since kindergarten. So I definitely wanted to go somewhere where I could strengthen that and really be immersed and just be talking to everyday people out in the open. And I didn't exactly know if I wanted it to be like an English program or just like a general liberal arts program that would allow me to practice my Spanish. But I ended up finding my program online, which is called Migration and Social Change. It's through Augsburg University, which is a school in Minnesota. And it really just aligned with my passions really well. I love the focus on social justice themes and just learning about the US's impact abroad and just learning about Latin American history. And I loved that there was a communications track, particularly. I thought it would be a very unique opportunity for me to learn about how journalism might align there, how it might relate, and also look for potential stories and issues that intrigued me. So it's been a really, really great experience. I'm really happy to be here.
That's fantastic. My goodness. So you already knew you wanted to learn about migration, and you took it upon yourself to go to Mexico. To really learn. I love this. So now that you're there in that environment, you're communicating with the people and you're in a cohort, I believe, of students. Is that right?
Yes, a small cohort. We're all from different schools in the US, but it's only 11 of us. So it's a pretty small group.
Wow. And then I think you told me you were the only HBCU representative, yes?
I am.
Very cool. Very cool. Okay. So now with learning about migration and how it relates to America, what is your goal, I guess, in your topic of conversation? Are you going to draw similarities or differences? What is the goal when you return to write about it?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely think that a major takeaway from my time here, I think just a drastic shift in perspective really helps to expand your viewpoint more. I think that immigration being such a hot topic in the US, when you have, both political parties trying to, look, tough on crime, tough on immigration, and really crack down on these issues. And I think it can be very easy to fall in line with that type of thinking and not really remember that these are humans who are just trying to build a better life for themselves or escape a dangerous situation or just have more opportunity at the end of the day. So I think that being here, just last weekend, we had an excursion to Mexico City where we actually went to a migrant shelter and we talked to migrants from all different countries. Some were from, Latin American countries like Venezuela, and then others were from places as far as the Congo and Ghana and very distant places, Sudan. So it was very interesting just talking to them and hearing just the traumatic experiences they've gone through and also just hearing them say we feel that regardless of who's in power, because we asked them about the upcoming election, they said, regardless of who's in power, Democrat, Republican, we can't win. We're going to continue to be discriminated against and oppressed and looked at as less than. And I also wrote an article about how the US elections could potentially impact Mexico. And that was a unique perspective that I really wanted to delve into. And when I talked to local professors, that was the same feeling that they had of, the US is a global power and it's going to be what it's going to be, unfortunately. So I think one of my main goals is just to really draw that humanity and remind people of how this issue actually impacts people and also advocate for more humane policy and just remind people that regardless of red or blue, like I think we like to put a lot of blame on like Trump and, red politicians. But at the same time, you have record numbers of deportations under Obama. And you have, Biden and even Kamala Harris who have embraced this rhetoric of like being tougher on crime. And you even have policy. I don't think a lot of people realize just how horrible US immigration policy is in the sense of, even if you get caught crossing the border undocumented, you could be barred from applying for asylum permanently or for a certain number of years. Like it's just very, very harsh and very cruel. And I think that journalists and just people who care about people have a very unique and important duty of, reminding people and informing people of these issues.
So powerful. I mean, I love the fact that there's a realization that no matter who's in power, we have to take control of our own lives and definitely work for the best of our own humanity. I love that that's the takeaway that's coming away from even this election we just experienced. So thank you for sharing that, because there's a lot of people, of course, dealing with all kinds of emotions. And, you can't let one party just take you down. You're still capable. You are still capable if you want to be successful. Thank you for that. So now you're over there with a cohort of 11. Of course, you're surrounded and protected and all that good stuff. But how do you take care of yourself over there? And, we deal with these listeners here that are incoming freshmen and they're leaving just home for the first time to go to a college campus. You're actually abroad, completely away from everyone. So that's a major transition. How are you taking care of yourself?
For sure. So I think a lot of it is just staying connected to my family and friends back home, because it can be very easy to feel isolated, just being like thrown into this drastically different environment where you don't know anyone. But I think, talking to my parents regularly and talking to my friends at school, scheduling little FaceTimes just to catch up here and there has been really helpful. And then just continuing to do the things that bring me joy at home. Like I said, like I love to dance. And back at Spelman, I'm a part of an African dance ministry. And that's something that has always brought me a lot of joy. So it really sucks being away from them, but I'm taking a Latin dance class here. And even outside of class, like social dancing is a big thing. So we go out and we dance and we have a lot of fun. It's been a great form of self-care, I'd say. And then just like spending time outside, spending time in the sun, like fully like embracing the study abroad experience, because I think that going from Spelman to here, like there is a bit of a shift in workload, and it definitely like comes in waves. Like sometimes we're super packed, super busy, and it can be a little overwhelming. But I think most of the time my schedule tends to be much calmer and I have a lot of time to myself. And I think I'm a bit of a workaholic, like super productive. And sometimes when I'm not in that super working mode, I feel stressed, like, oh, I should be doing something, I should be getting something done. But sometimes it's just good to like be in the present and go to a local cafe and read a book, or just go on a walk with my friends, or explore parts of the town we haven't seen. So just like fully take advantage of being in this beautiful country and being able to live here for a period of time. Like that's not an opportunity that everyone gets. So yeah.
Wow. So it sounds like you just embrace the transition. You're like, I'm ready for it. I'm ready for adventure. I love that. And it also sounds like joy just follows you wherever you go. And that's beautiful that you keep that alive. So now we talked about, even just being abroad and safety conditions. Do you guys have those concerns? I mean, you guys travel in groups. How does that work? And how are you taken care of in that way?
I definitely feel very, very safe here. We're, mindful about, traveling in groups, like you said, and just making smart decisions, particularly as, young women, because majority of us in the program are women. But I wouldn't say that I feel unsafe in any way that I don't feel unsafe in the US. I think in a lot of ways, violence, in Mexico has been like, and a lot of Latin American countries, or just countries in general outside of the US, has been like weaponized and kind of exaggerated by the media. And that's not to say that there aren't problems of violence here. Like, of course, you have problems with the government and with corruption and organized crime. And those are definitely a reality. Like, I don't mean to like invalidate that, but I think that there's so much beauty and so much kindness. And I feel like I've just met such incredible people. And there's just a very overwhelming sense of community here. And I really haven't felt unsafe, but it is just about, at the end of the day, having common sense and, sticking together, not doing things that I wouldn't do as a young woman in the US, basically.
Right. Okay, that's fantastic. It's good to hear because, as you said, people exaggerate the stories, so it's good to hear what's really happening. So now you emphasize community, you emphasize family, friendship, and we're here for this Divine Nine series, and you are representing the Zetas. Beautiful young ladies. I've met so many of you. So tell us, what drew you to the Zetas?
So it was a combination of things. I grew up with a variety of family members in the Divine Nine, but the biggest force in my life, who was Greek, is my dad. He's a Sigma and he's very, very active. So I think growing up around him and his frat brothers and just seeing the love and dedication and consistency they had in helping their communities was something that was always very inspiring to me. And then I got to Spelman, and in no ways was my dad kind of pressuring me to go any one way or to be Greek at all. He kind of just let it be up to me. But I decided I still, had an interest and I wanted to consider the Zetas. And a huge other force in my life was, and still is, one of my prophytes and my mentor, Anaya. We went to high school together. She was a huge reason why I came to Spelman. So after she crossed Zeta, there naturally was a bit of a pull for her. She's like, I think you should come to some events. I think you should meet people. And, when I came to the events, I just felt a real sense of community. And I felt that the girls were genuine and I loved the diversity. I loved that they were just women who just looked different, had different personalities, different passions. But I just really felt a genuine sense of sisterhood there. And I think that it aligned with Zeta as an organization, beyond the chapter, just that mission of, true progress and inclusivity for all women. And it just was a decision that really felt right to me. And I talked to other women in my life who are Zetas. My dad's fiance is a Zeta, so she was also a huge factor in that as well. And just hearing about her experiences and what a difference Zeta has made in her life, it was just really a decision that felt right to me. And I've loved every second of it. It's been great. I crossed fall 2023, so we're coming up on a year, which is crazy. But yeah, I've just loved the relationships that I formed. I'm an only child, so having line sisters, I feel like that's the closest I've really gotten to siblings, and it's just a very, very unique bond. And I feel like I've grown a lot also in terms of the amount of leadership opportunities I've been afforded and that we've been afforded as a chapter in general. Two of my line sisters, for example, they got to be voting delegates at Boulé, the first Boulé since crossing. And then within the chapter, being a smaller chapter, we just have a good amount of just say in what we envision and what we want to see. I remember last spring when we had our Zeta week, we were just brainstorming ideas and our theme was the celebration of African American women. And my prophytes had just asked, what are y'all's ideas? And I said, you know what, I'd really love to lead an event about Black women's contributions to activism. They said, okay, go ahead. And I just planned a whole event, a slideshow, questions, prompts about Black women and activism and how Black women's contributions are erased. And I think that was a great growth opportunity for me. And I'm looking forward to having more of those opportunities. So yeah, it's just been a really, really great decision for me.
So you would encourage our listeners that are considering it to wait until their junior year, take some time to investigate. What do you think?
I definitely think so. I think it's a personal decision for everyone. I definitely don't think it's something that should be rushed and everyone should do what's right for them. At Spelman, it's different from school to school, but at Spelman, you can't do it until your sophomore year. And I do think there's a lot of reason in that. And just being able to get to college and, take your time, get a sense of the different organizations and figure out if it's for you. Because at the end of the day, it is a huge commitment and you want to make sure that your heart is in it if you do go for it. So I think it's something that you just really have to follow your heart on. If it's right for you, you go for it. If not, maybe you can wait till a graduate chapter. And if that's not right for you, there's nothing wrong with just not being Greek at all. I think it's for some people and it's not for others, and that's perfectly okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I love to hear about community. I love to hear that when you guys are traveling internationally, you immediately have your sisters, and your brothers. It's just great. And I think you guys are the first organization to have an official brotherhood with the Sigmas. Is that right?
Absolutely. And that's been very special for me as well. And that's the other thing I was going to say, even traveling, if I have a Zeta shirt on or I have my tote bag, just getting a, hey, soror, or like just the connections that you make authentically. I went to a conference over the summer in Chicago. I went to the National Association of Black Journalists Convention. And I was kind of looking around. I was seeing people with like their naily and their pins, and I was just crossing my fingers to meet someone. And it was just so nice to meet other Zetas. I met 2 or 3 and just talk about our experiences, exchange LinkedIn's. And then I also ran into Sigmas and, talked to them about what my aspirations were. And I got, help with my luggage. I got, I'll pass your resume along. I got, here's my email, contact me if you need anything. So I think that's been very, very special as well. Just the amount of people who they don't even know you, but just of seeing you and having that connection with you. And, this organization means so much to both of us. Like, I'm willing to be a sister or a brother to you and help you out. So I think that's very special.
Very special. Built-in brotherhood. Very special. So now we talked about it briefly earlier about the election, and, you just really can't change your life or lose your mind because of one party over the other. There has to be consistency in the way that we take care of ourselves. So did you vote?
Yes, I did. I voted by absentee ballot. I was not planning about voting. I applied before I even left to come here. I got my ballot and I made sure it was sent off. So yes, I voted.
Okay. And so you would encourage our listeners, no matter what, it's still important to vote.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it's very easy to look at US politics and get very frustrated or feel that your vote doesn't matter. And I think that frustration is totally valid. But I think for me, when I think about how much the generations before me have fought to make sure I could vote and make sure I could have a voice and have a say, I think it's really important that we participate. And that doesn't mean that voting is the end all be all, because, as we saw in the election yesterday, unfortunately, a lot of people are not happy with the results. I am one of those people. But, I think it's about continuing the hope. And of course, we did what we could. It didn't work out, but now we just have to figure out new ways to organize and to help each other out and, find that community and help others. So absolutely.
Yeah. Thank you for saying it, because our power is still there. Our vote is still our power. So we have to continue to vote. So now this has been very powerful and I think inspirational for those that are considering, just ways to even be more active in their communities. Do you have some encouraging words for those listeners to keep them focused on not only taking care of themselves, but taking care of their people around them, their communities?
I think it's just about, even when it's difficult, leading with love and maintaining hope. Because I think it's, like I said, very easy to throw your hands up and feel hopeless. But at the end of the day, I think that's what a lot of people want us to do. They want us to feel powerless. They want us to give up. And regardless, we still need each other, and there are people in need of help. And I think that we just have to keep, take a moment, feel sad, feel discouraged, feel your feelings, but just keep moving, keep finding new ways to press forward.
Mm-hmm. Love this. Love this. Well, this has been incredible. I'm so glad we met. I have to thank Caleb for introducing us. So now, how can our listeners reach out if they want to learn more about Spelman, learn more about you, maybe about the blueprint? Where would you like us to send them?
So you can connect with me on LinkedIn. It's just my first and last name, Nila Roper. You can also follow my Instagram. It's Nila Kendall, NILAKENDALLLL. And in terms of looking at the Spelman Blueprint, if you have an interest in journalism or just what Spelman students are doing, what they're covering, you can go on Instagram and just look up Spelman Blueprint and it should pop up.
All right. Well, thank you so much for this time. And I think you healed a few people that are listening because we're all trying to survive this day.
Absolutely. And thank you so much for having me. This has been so amazing.
This has been so cool. I appreciate you. All right. So I'll be in touch with you and we'll talk very soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
All right. You take care. We'll talk soon. Thank you for joining us. So as the election comes to a close, find new ways to organize in your community so you can be a part of the solution. For more information about other episodes, remember to subscribe to the Back to Me podcast, College and Beyond. I'm your host, Yoli Tamu. Leave a review at the end of this podcast. And if you would like to learn more about other special events, join the Back to Me podcast group available now on GroupMe, or simply text Back to Me to 833-206-4565. Until next time, be well.